What is up guys, Greedy Knight here with a commentated Bishaten hunt. I'm covering the matchup with commentary because I enjoyed the fight. If you just want the hunt itself, skip to the timestamp down below and enjoy the sub 5 minute run. I'll break down my process of the hunt to showcase how much prep work goes into these videos. Let's get into it. The high rank 5-star quest is Rotten Fruit. A quick look at Kiranika will tell you that the health of Bishaten ranges from 11,760 health to 13,440 health. It spawns in area 11 and 2 a majority of the time. After testing a few runs, area 11 provides the least amount of travel time and it hops over to the neighboring waterfall if it does move, making it the favored spot. The only caveat is that the trees obscure your vision, so area 2 is slightly better for providing a clear view of the entire fight. Whatever happens, always reset when it spawns in area 10 because it has both angles to screw up your combos, bad travel time, and Bishaten goes to the corner of the map when it does move. I'm using Nargacuga for this hunt since it's the best balanced charge blade. With the set I'm using, I'm able to use both Super Spam and Savage Axe for solid damage. The fight requires flexibility to use both. Instead of maxing out on attack, I invested in artillery for better damage. The reason you invest in attack at all is to buff both your Savage Axe ticks and impact file damage. However, Savage Axe ticks give 1 point of damage for every 10 raw, so staying at 4 attack gives 230 raw, which converts to 23 damage per tick, versus 7 points of attack at 242 raw and 24 damage per tick. With artillery, file damage gets a 30% increase, so it's more KO power and damage. Rapid Morph is mandatory solo. It is not possible to use specific inputs safely without Rapid Morph. You will get hit by a lot of attacks if you don't run this skill. Protective Polish isn't worth maintaining after the first sharpen because you lose 6 damage per chop when you drop down the blue. It only affects your cutting damage while your foul damage will remain constant. The only time you resharpen is when it moves to another area. Since this is a freestyle hunt, I brought my buddies. I went for a mix of sleep and paralysis, but neither procced due to Bishaten's higher thresholds. It would have been smarter to invest in blast, poison, or ice for the higher damage. His ice element is 20 plus on exactly 2 areas, so it limits its usefulness overall. Since I'm using impact foul, I go for Dango Bombardier and Slugger for better damage / KO. Since artillery and bombardier stack to a 1.5 foul damage multiplier, which I covered in a previous video, I use the Dango ticket every time to activate it as much as possible. The health pool range is the biggest determinant of how fast your time is, so always go for Dango Weakener to have a better chance at rolling for a low HP Bishaten. A difference of 680 health is 3 to 4 supers, and that will definitely eat your time up. With the prep out of the way, let's get into the hunt. Bishaten spawns in area 11 as we discussed, allowing us to quick travel right to the fight. As I head over, I sharpen for protective polish and white sharpness damage. I attack Bishaten for some free damage and to proc his roar, which I counter peek to get free red shield. There are a number of moves he chooses from, so I watch him carefully in order to react appropriately. I charge slash to get extra damage and energy in case he did an option to zip away. I recognize the tail slam animation, so I counterpeeked in response, opting for a CSS chop. As Bishaten jumped and threw the fruit, Mako shielded me from it. Good dog. Bishaten's fruit flip can end run, so don't get hit here. I counterpeeked it to avoid the paralysis. Bishaten dashes away, morphing advance closes the distance, and I hit ZR to enter sword and shield mode. When Bishaten does that cloak animation, he's prepping for a flash bomb fruit, which is hard countered by counterpeek in every scenario. I AED because my positioning isn't ideal. When Bishaten tosses out fruit, directly in front of him is the safe zone to stay in and it's a free hit. I AED again to try and knock him out of the fruit toss. Not only does it knock it over, he gets KO'd. I follow up with a perfectly angled morphing advance into 3 foul super for good damage. I rack in some charge slashes and proc condensed spinning slash. He follows up with the double swipe. I tried and failed to counter peek the second swipe or the tail slam. I noticed Bishaten charging up his flipping tail swipe, so I counter peeked it into a condensed spinning slash after I see him stand up. The best place to stand is directly behind him, but I was positioned too far right, resulting in the jank swipe. When Bishaten roars while standing on his tail, he's going to do a triple flip. Guard point here because counter peeking at any point before the third flip will result in a hit. He follows up with the wing spin, so I guard to preserve wire bugs. I get lucky on the charge dash because I broke the threshold to knock Bishaten off its tail. I get a free punish off this. I opted for a super for the higher burst damage. He hops back after getting up and does a charge, which I counter peek. I had to take a different course of action to avoid getting hit by the flip. He cloaks again, so I wait for the flash bomb animation with a guard point. I was mashing X+A to pop a super, but input latency be damned. It came out as a /, which then knocked Bishaten down a second time, and comboed into a super with optimal positioning. He threw a fruit upon getting up, but I gave zero shits as I walked out of the way. Kid got a flinch when I was expecting an attack with counter peek. Bad cat. He cloaks again, so you know what I do. The reason I opt for a super here is because I was a few steps back from the tail, so I wouldn't miss out on too much damage. I see him wind up for a double wing swipe, but I have no wire bugs. I guard the first, then counter peek the second. The very frame my wire bug recharges. It would have been a sick punish, but Bishaten moves out of the way to prep his follow-up triple tail slam. I held guard in response. He does the fruit barrage for the second time, so my crew and I knock him down. I focus on getting red shield charge, but I also know that roughly 2.5 minutes have passed, meaning I'm still under 4 minutes. I want to end this hunt right now if possible. I commit to CSS chops for damage. Since my Palico has rousing roar, among other buffs, I can keep on dishing out damage through Bishaten's roar. Even though I can't see Bishaten very well, I have a good enough outline to predict his flash bomb animation, which is why I did the blind counter peek. I've done enough riding damage to proc a ride, so that's what I gamble for with the super, and I get the ride. I don't do anything fancy because time is ticking, but triple wall bash into the "your prey is weak" prompt ends the hunt. Like if you enjoyed the video or you learned something about Bishaten's matchup. Consider subscribing if you want to continue watching Charge Blade hunts like these. Next hunt will be Puke Puke. The next matchups won't be commentated. I will only do a fleshed out video for hunts I personally enjoy. I will continue posting the regular hunts as I finish crown farming. That's all I got for this one. Greedy Knight, signing out.
ム・ウテラ